Killmonger doesn't just walk into Black Panther like a villain, he storms in like a reckoning. He's not wearing some cartoonish evil grin or stroking a cat, he's wearing pain, loss, and centuries of rage. Born as Eric Stevens, raised in Oakland, and abandoned by Wakanda after his father's murder, Killmonger isn't evil for the sake of it. He's a product of systemic injustice, someone who grew up watching black communities suffer while Wakanda, a healthy, untouched African superpower, stayed hidden and silent. That silence? That's what breaks him. He doesn't want to destroy the world, he wants to flip the power structure. In his eyes, it's time for the oppressed to become the dominant force. His plan? Arm the marginalized with Wakandan tech and spark a global revolution. Sounds terrifying, but also deeply familiar to anyone who's ever felt powerless. What makes Killmonger so painfully relatable is that he's right until he's not. His motivations are rooted in real trauma. His fury? Justified. But his methods? Brutal and self-destructive. When he says, "Bury me in the ocean with my ancestors who jumped from ships," because they knew death was better than bondage, that's not a villain talking. That's a broken man who was never given a chance to heal. And maybe that's what makes Killmonger unforgettable. He forces us to question who we call the villain in the first place. Magneto doesn't want to conquer the world, he just wants to make sure it never hurts him again. Born Max Eisenhardt, a Jewish boy who survived the Holocaust, Magneto's hatred isn't born from evil, it's forged in genocide. He saw firsthand what happens when the world fears a group of people and decides they shouldn't exist. So when mutants start getting hunted, registered, or cured, Magneto doesn't flinch. He fights back. To him, humans are just repeating history, and he's done being the victim. While Professor X dreams of coexistence, Magneto prepares for war. Not because he wants violence, but because he's convinced it's the only language people truly understand. He doesn't trust society to evolve. He's seen too much to believe in peace without force. And honestly, he's not wrong. When politicians debate mutant rights like it's a disease, when mobs chase kids with powers, when science tries to fix their genes, Magneto sees it for what it is, the early signs of another genocide. What makes him relatable is this: he's not a madman. He's a traumatized survivor who's determined never to let his people go through what he did. His actions may be extreme, but his fear? It's very, very real. In a world that treats difference like a threat, Magneto is what happens when someone decides. Never again, not quietly, not politely, not this time. Prince Zuko's story isn't about good versus evil. It's about identity, shame, and the desperate need to be loved. Banished at just 13 by his own father, Fire Lord Ozai, Zuko is forced to hunt the Avatar not out of hatred, but because he thinks that's the only way to earn his honor back. And that word, honor, becomes his entire personality. But here's the twist. Zuko isn't cruel. He's angry, conflicted. Every time he clashes with Aang or Iroh or even himself, it's a war between who he's told to be and who he really is. That's what makes him so relatable. He doesn't have the answers. He tries to do the right thing, then stumbles back into old habits. He lashes out, makes mistakes, regrets them, just like the rest of us. His redemption arc isn't a sudden flip. It's painful, slow, and messy. He rejects evil not because someone told him to, but because he finally realizes his father's approval isn't worth losing himself. And let's not forget Uncle Iroh, the quiet, wise voice of unconditional love Zuko never got from his real family. That relationship alone could make anyone cry. Zuko is every kid who tries to earn love by being someone else and finally found peace by being themselves. He didn't start as a hero, but he sure earned it. Mr. Freeze isn't your typical Batman rogue. He's not driven by greed, chaos, or revenge. He's driven by love, pure, heartbreaking love for his terminally ill wife, Nora. A brilliant scientist, Victor Fries was willing to break every rule to keep her alive in cryostasis until a cure would be found. But when corporate greed pulled the plug on his experiment, it wasn't just Nora who was lost. He was too. A lab accident turned him into a man who couldn't survive outside sub-zero temperatures. But that's not what froze his heart. It was the injustice, the helplessness, the fact that the world kept spinning while his wife lay in a glass coffin. That grief turned into cold, calculated vengeance. What makes Mr. Freeze so compelling is that he's not evil. He doesn't kill for fun. He doesn't want chaos. He just wants time. Time with Nora. Time he was cruelly denied. And the irony? The colder he becomes physically, the more we understand his pain. Unlike many villains, Mr. Freeze doesn't want to rule Gotham. He just wants one thing back: love. And that makes him terrifying because a man with nothing left to lose is the most dangerous of all. Tragic, elegant, and chilling, Mr. Freeze is what happens when grief meets genius and love meets despair. If you had the power to bend reality, would you use it to bring back the ones you lost? Wanda Maximoff's journey isn't about world domination of power for power's sake. It's about grief, raw and feral. In Multiverse of Madness, she's not just the Scarlet Witch, she's a grieving mother who's seen the life she built ripped away twice. She lost her brother, she lost Vision, she lost the twins she created in WandaVision, and worst of all, she had to wake up and let it all go. But she didn't really let go, she just buried the pain under layers of denial and sorcery, and when she learns there's a multiverse where her children are alive, that's it. Logic, morality, even reality itself, none of it matters anymore. All she can see is a chance to be a mother again. And yes, she becomes the villain. She hurts people, she breaks the world, but she's not evil, she's in agony. Her entire arc is a question we're too scared to answer. How far would you go to escape your pain? Wanda isn't a monster, she's just a human being with godlike powers and a grief too big to carry. And in the end, that's what makes her one of the most heartbreaking, relatable villains ever written. Imagine being replaced not because you broke, but because a child simply moved on. That's the wound Lotso carries in Toy Story 3. Once the cherished teddy bear of a little girl named Daisy, Lotso believed in love, loyalty, and the unbreakable bond between toy and child. But one day, Daisy accidentally left him behind. When he journeyed back home, he found a new Lotso in his place, same model, same smile, just not him. And just like that, everything shattered. Lotso didn't turn evil overnight, he was broken, betrayed, and discarded. So he built a new world at Sunnyside Daycare, one where toys wouldn't have to feel that pain again. But his version of safety became a prison. He ruled with fear because deep down he believed love was a lie. If kids can forget you that easily, why give them a chance? What makes Lotso such a powerful villain isn't just his cruelty, it's his origin. His villainy is rooted in something we all fear, being replaced and forgotten. He masks it with control, bitterness, and manipulation, turning a daycare into a dictatorship. But the most chilling part? He genuinely thinks he's protecting others from what broke him. That makes him not just a villain, but a mirror, showing what happens when heartbreak curdles into hatred. Lotso isn't scary because he's a bear. He's scary because he's us if we let bitterness win. Gollum wasn't always a monster. He was once Smeagol, an ordinary hobbit-like creature with a simple life. But the moment he laid eyes on the One Ring, everything changed. That tiny golden band didn't just corrupt him, it replaced him. Over centuries, Smeagol eroded into Gollum, a twisted shadow of his former self, driven by addiction, paranoia, and an all-consuming desire for precious. What makes Gollum one of fiction's most tragic villains isn't his evil, it's his duality. Deep inside, Smeagol still flickers. He laughs, cries, pleads, and even tries to be good. When Frodo shows him kindness, we see a heartbreaking glimpse of what could have been. But the ring's grip is too strong. It whispers, manipulates, owns him. Unlike villains who crave power or revenge, Gollum is simply trying to reclaim the one thing he believes he can't live without. He's not plotting to destroy the world, he's a prisoner of his own mind. That's what makes him so relatable and terrifying. We all have our own precious, something we cling to even when it's hurting us. Gollum is a warning. What we desire most can sometimes be what destroys us. In the end, Gollum isn't just a villain. He's a victim of the ring, of time, of himself. And that's what makes his story so unforgettable. Syndrome didn't start off as a villain. He started as a fan, a wide-eyed, brilliant kid named Buddy Pine who worshipped superheroes, especially Mr. Incredible. All he wanted was to be noticed, to matter, but instead of mentorship, he got rejection. And that one moment, that single dismissal turned admiration into obsession and love into hatred. What makes Syndrome so relatable is how painfully human his origin is. He wasn't born with powers, but he had genius, drive, and heart. He just wanted to help, but being told you're not special, especially by the person you look up to, cuts deeper than any villain's punch. So what does he do? He builds his own power. He creates technology to make himself a superhero. And then he decides if he can't be one, he'll destroy them all, because if everyone's super, as he says, no one is. That's the tragedy. He doesn't want to be evil, he wants recognition. He wants to rewrite the rules of what makes someone worthy. But he goes about it with rockets, giant robots, and a vendetta so personal it consumes him. Syndrome is every kid who was laughed at, every fan who got told they didn't belong. He's the dark side of rejection-fueled ambition, proof that sometimes the scariest villains are the ones we accidentally create. Which of these villains did you secretly root for? Let us know in the comments, and subscribe for more surprising breakdowns from the world of fiction.